All seasoned artists will have their own preferences for which drawing supplies they prefer using, but if you're a beginner, getting the right supplies can get you started on the right foot. You don't need many supplies for drawing, and the supplies you can get are usually relatively inexpensive compared to investing in other art mediums. I want to share some artist quality drawing supplies that feel great to use and produce fantastic results. Graphite pencils are the most popular kind of pencils for artists. Graphite is a naturally occurring material, it's a different structural form of carbon, and it offers a wide range of tones from very light to very dark. It's grey in tone and has a slight reflective quality on the paper. They're also relatively inexpensive, so they're a great option if you're just getting started. Graphite pencils come in a range of hardness grades from 9H, which is the hardest, to 12B, which is the softest. The higher the H number, the harder the lead and the lighter the mark on the paper. The higher the B number, the softer the lead and the darker the mark on the paper. This allows artists to have a wide range of options for creating different textures and tones in their drawings. H pencils are more frequently used for technical drawings as they give artists the ability to create finer, more precise lines, whereas B pencils are commonly used for shading as they enable you to create the largest range of values. There are two types of graphite pencils that I use, and I've tested multiple different brands, but these come out top for me. The first is the Faber-Castell Pitt Graphite Matte Pencils. I have a range of these from HB to the Ultra Soft 12B. The benefit of these pencils, which is quite unusual, is that these do not have a reflective surface quality. Graphite has a tendency to appear polished on the paper when going over areas of shading, which can detract from the darkness of the marks. So the great thing about these matte graphite pencils is that they don't do this as much, so you can see the difference here. This means that you can create ultra dark tones in drawings without that slight reflective quality. The other pencil that I'm a little bit obsessed with at the moment, and this one is quite a new find for me, is this mechanical pencil, which is the Faber-Castell Clutch. There's something about the extra weightiness and shape which makes it feel easier to balance in your hand. The other great thing about this is that you can extend the lead to a longer length. In my Drawing Fundamentals course, I teach my students to sharpen their pencils to a long point, so they have around about an inch of pencil lead to work with. Having a longer lead allows artists to work with the overhand grip more easily, control the pencil better, and use the side of the lead to shade larger areas. With a mechanical pencil, you can choose the length of your lead, which is fantastic, and you don't need to sharpen the pencil with a knife, which means that the body of the pencil stays the same length. With regular pencils, the body gets shorter, which can make them more difficult to control without a pencil extender. I do sharpen the leads of my mechanical pencils with sanding paper, just to get a more sharp, even point. For this pencil, I have some 3B and 6B leads that I can change out. So those are the two types of pencils I use. I use the Pitt Graphite Matte Pencils for the ultra dark tones and the shadows, and I've just started using the mechanical pencil for sketching outlines and sketchbook work. But honestly, if there was just one art supply that I could choose to keep out of everything, it would be this mechanical pencil. Charcoal is another popular drawing medium that creates darker, richer tones than graphite. It's softer, smudgier, and feels more painterly to draw with. Charcoal is made from vine or willow twigs that have been heated in kilns. There are a few different types of charcoal that you can get, like compressed charcoal, which is made with binders like wax or gum, and willow charcoal, which are just pure willow twigs. It's more brittle and soft than graphite, so it feels quite different to draw with. Charcoal looks different on the paper compared to graphite, as it appears as more of a matte black colour rather than a shiny grey. It's a bit more messy to use than graphite, but it can be used to create wonderfully dramatic and expressive pieces. I use graphite a lot more than charcoal, and that's just my personal preference. But when I do use charcoal, my go-to supplies are these Nitram charcoal sticks. These have more of a unique formulation as they resist breakage and create less dust than regular willow charcoal, and they can also be sharpened to a point with sandpaper. Not all paper is made the same. When looking for drawing paper, look for paper that's relatively thick and smooth. For example, printer paper is thin, so if you were to draw with multiple layers of graphite and lots of erasing, you'd be more likely to tear the paper. So thicker paper just gives you that extra support and stability whilst drawing. Paper weight is measured in grams per square metre, so you might see on the packaging of a sketchbook a GSM number. Anything above 150 GSM would be great, but I usually get paper above 250 GSM. However, for rough sketches or practicing, you could use lighter weight paper as it's cheaper. The texture is a really important factor to consider when choosing your paper because it affects the whole drawing experience and how the finished piece will appear. For regular graphite drawing, smoother paper will enable you to create fine details more easily and they will stand out more. Ultra smooth paper is great for marker drawing too. Vellum paper has a very subtle wavy texture. Vellum is another paper texture that's great for working with details, but the slight texture means that you can use the side of the pencil to pick up the subtle tooth to create the illusion of details through highlighting its texture. This is what I did when I drew the hair on this portrait. I shaded with the side of the pencil to pick up the paper's texture, and it created this wavy organic appearance which emulates the texture of hair. Cold pressed paper, which is designed for watercolour, is another paper that pencil artists sometimes choose for the unique texture that it provides. If you're creating more gestural or expressive works or using mixed media, cold pressed paper can give a nice effect. Then, if you want to experiment with pastels, coloured pencil or charcoal, you want to get paper that has a toothy texture that allows for mediums to adhere. For this, I use pastel paper like Pastel Matte. It's a bit more expensive, but for final pieces in coloured pencil or pastel, it makes all the difference. This is because it allows you to draw with multiple layers and with colours that look more vibrant. For regular graphite drawing pencil, I really like using Bristol board papers by Strathmore. You can get them in smooth or vellum texture. This drawing was done on vellum, so the smooth paper will look smoother than this. Then, if you want to get a sketchbook, my favourite ones I found so far are these Stillman & Burns sketchbooks. I get the Zeta version. The paper is super high quality and they just feel like a joy to use. Another kind of sketchbook that I occasionally use are toned paper sketchbooks. These are great because the midtone of the drawing is already established, so you can spend less time shading midtones. Then you just get a white pencil to make those highlights pop. I'll use burnt umber colour pencils and a white pencil to create drawings in this. This is a Strathmore 400 series Tone Tan sketchbook. There are quite a few different kinds of erasers you can get that all have their own individual properties. A rubber eraser is the most commonly found eraser that everyone would have used at some point. This type of eraser is great for cleanly removing graphite, but its drawback is that it leaves crumbs on the page and can damage the paper's surface. A kneaded eraser is a little different to a regular rubber eraser, and it's a favourite amongst artists. It's made from unvulcanized rubber, which makes it pliable. This kind of eraser works by absorbing graphite or charcoal particles, and it's a great type of eraser for subtly lifting areas of graphite. Other properties of this material is that it doesn't leave crumbs, it's less messy, and it's much softer, and it also won't damage paper fibres. To use it, warm it up in your hands first, mould it into any shape you want, and then start erasing. There are a few different techniques you can use with this particular eraser. Wipe it back and forth to erase marks, mould it to a point to erase details. You can even snap a piece off for ultrafine details, or flatten it and use a stamping motion to lift highlights gradually. The thing about kneaded erasers is they're not the best for erasing the most indelible marks. This is why I teach my course students to gradually build up areas of shading and spend more time on the planning phase of a drawing, which minimises mistakes later on. To clean the eraser, mould it in your hands and the graphite will be reabsorbed. One other specific tool that I find really useful is a precision eraser. I use this one, which is the Tombow Mono Zero. It looks and works a bit like a mechanical pencil, and it has a thin rubber, retractable, replaceable core. This is made out of vulcanized rubber, like a regular eraser, so it's better for erasing super dark marks and details. I usually use this as part of the last stage of the drawing process to lift tiny highlights and create final details. When it comes to sharpening pencils, I always recommend that my students use a craft knife to sharpen their pencils so they can achieve a longer point like this. This creates a more versatile drawing and shading tool. I use a craft knife to shave off the wooden casing, then I use sanding paper to create an ultra sharp, even fine point. I have another tutorial on sharpening a pencil which I'll link to in the description. I also use sanding paper to sharpen the mechanical pencils in charcoal. I get sanding paper with a fine grit of around 180. Blending is a technique that's great for creating smooth gradients and soft edges in a drawing. It's useful for creating realistic effects, soft shadows on portraits, or atmospheric effects in a landscape drawing. To blend, you can just use tissue paper, but if you want a dedicated tool that allows you to blend with more precision, I recommend these tortillions, which are just rolled up pieces of paper. They're inexpensive and you can use them as a drawing tool themselves once they've become absorbed with graphite to create blurry, soft lines. To clean them, just use sanding paper to remove extra graphite from the tip. You can also use tortillions with coloured pencils and charcoal. The great thing about drawing is that you can really do it anywhere, at a desk, on the sofa, or you can sketch outdoors pretty easily with minimal supplies. But if you're really thinking about taking drawing seriously, or you want to create a purpose-built space for drawing, there are some pieces of equipment that you can get that can upgrade your experience. Firstly, drawing with paper propped up at an easel or a drawing table so that the paper runs adjacent to your eyeline is the best way to minimise distortion when drawing. Drawing like this means that you don't have to crane your neck over a desk, and it will allow you to see the entirety of the drawing without any of it being angled away from you. I already have an easel for painting, so I use it for drawing as well. I tape my paper with masking tape to an MDF board, then prop it up. Drawing this way takes a bit of getting used to at first if you're used to working at a desk. If you already have an easel, this could be something to try out. If you like the sound of this setup, you can also get cheaper table easels. While these extras for your workspace aren't necessary, they can be helpful in creating a comfortable and efficient workspace for your art. I hope this guide has inspired you to create a workspace that supports your drawing practice. If you want to take your skills to the next level, consider joining our Drawing Fundamentals course. This comprehensive program is designed with 55 structured lessons that guide beginner artists towards intermediate levels and beyond. Through practical and engaging lessons, you'll master essential skills like portrait drawing, proportions, line work, perspective, and how to plan beautiful compositions to achieve stunning results. Plus, you'll get access to the exclusive Fine Art Tutorials community. I'm also giving away 2 free Drawing for Beginners ebooks, and I'll put a link to those in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.